Hello, and welcome to the studio. I'm Miss Mac, and let's talk listening. A lot of musicians wonder, why do I need to talk about listening? Listening is so essential to what we do as musicians. It's really easy to do, and I can't turn it off. It's not like you can close your ears. But actually, listening is something that you can turn off internally and not engage with properly as a musician. And learning how to truly hear as a musician is one of the most difficult tasks that you can undertake. There are many types of hearing. The first type of which, of course, is passive hearing, what we do on a day-to-day basis. This is when you are sitting in a room and you are hearing things. Of course, I keep saying the word hearing, but what does this mean? And you are actively allowing input into your brain that is auditory. That is also the weakest form of hearing that we as musicians can utilize. There is also inner hearing and sensory hearing and engaged hearing. Inner hearing is being able to audiate or being able to internally hear what you want something to sound like. So if I were to think about the beginning to the William Tell Overture, I was able to hear it in my head. Of course, you have the advantage that you can hear it. Audiation is the ability to hear something in your head before you play it. So if I want to think, I need to play an A. Most people do not have perfect pitch, unfortunately, but you can train yourself to, in some cases, to remember certain notes, which can be very helpful. If you cannot seem to do that, there are other ways you can audiate. You can memorize intervals, you can remember the tune just like you would remember any other song that you know. It is your ability to have a more complete picture of what you want to play and hear that complete picture that is more important. For example, if I were to sing that is a very simple version of a very complicated piece. But if I were to sing I have a much more clear audiation of what the beginning of that piece is. Sensory hearing is allowing your other senses to aid in your hearing. That can be sight, sometimes smell, and especially touch. How can your other senses help with hearing? Your ears are what hear. It's like eating chocolate. You taste the chocolate, but it's also the texture of the chocolate that enhances the chocolate flavor. It is the smell of the chocolate that makes it just smell so delicious. In the same way, we listen with multiple senses. You hear the audio input, but you also see a musician playing physically. You see them working hard or not working hard. You can physically feel vibrations from sound. We all can do this. It's even in our heads. Our voices sound different inside of our heads than when we listen to a recording, because there is the added element of lots and lots of vibrations bouncing around straight into our brain, rather than just hearing the raw output audio that was captured by a listening device. We can use sensory hearing to enhance how we hear things. We tend to only hear passively, rather than allowing our other senses to incorporate themselves into our hearing. Finally, engaged hearing is putting more focus on the task of listening itself. You are actively looking for different elements of listening. You are physically preparing for what you think is going to happen. And when you are performing, your movements and your the effect that you are creating for the audience accompany the sound and become a part of the performance. Engaged hearing is one of the most magical parts of being a musician, even though it is very technical and very physically easy to describe. For example, crouching down low when something is quiet, or standing up really tall when something is loud. Those small differences can make a good piece into a concert experience that people will never forget. So there are 4 different ways that I have parsed out to listen to yourself as you practice. Those are essential, technical, reflective, and musical. Essential listening while you practice is by asking yourself, before you even pick up the instrument, what is a musician? What is our job as a musician? We are here to convey music to other people in our own styles, our own ways, and to allow others to experience sound in a way that is different than how they might have experienced it previously. Our job as a musician is to convey to our audience what wonders sound can be. Why do people love music? This was actually a question that I had a lot of trouble answering. Why do people love music? People say that they have a visceral connection and are emotionally moved by music, but how does this even happen? This was something that I struggled with for a really long time, actually. Understanding why people are moved in the ways that they are to music. And I think a lot of this is because music is a very physical and very emotionally charged experience, and we can help people work through whatever they need to work through in the concert hall. And what does sound feel like? This is much easier to describe. When you hit something hard, you feel it, that vibration. You first feel the impact, but then you feel the vibration of that sound running up your arm. If you are playing something, you feel the vibration of the string under your fingertips. If you are talking, you feel the vibration of your voice throughout your head and throughout your body. Sound is literally just air particles moving apart and moving together. Now let's get technical. We always tend to think of intonation when we talk about listening, but intonation has a lot more to do with the context of a piece. Intonation is a lot more complicated than just this note is sharp and this note is flat. There are different tuning systems. There are different ways to lean tonally. Sometimes you want to play something a little sharp. There are many different ways to tune, and there are many different ways to listen for intonation. There are also different ways to listen for tone. We think, oh, this person has a great tone. What does that mean? It means that we enjoy the way that the sound resonates out of their instrument based on their right hand technique. That is a lot more simple than we tend to make tone out to be. The hard part is mastering right arm technique, but in order to master that right arm technique, we can use our listening and refine our listening skills in order to decide on a tone that we prefer. And of course, there are dynamics, articulations, how you want an articulation to sound versus other articulations, or even under the umbrella of staccato, what kind of staccato do you want? And of course, color. What kind of color do you want to play with? What kind of timbre? These are all questions that you need to ask yourself and not always rely on someone to tell you what to do. There's also reflective listening, which is listening to other people and comparing to yourself, listening back to recordings of yourself. You can think about, what about other people's playing do I enjoy? What about Jimothy's what about Jimothy's playing do I really want to emulate in my own playing? I really like the way they use their vibrato. It's very different from mine, and I think I could use that vibrato. Let me go ask Jimothy how they practice vibrato and what their opinions are about vibrato. You can also think about, how are you different? Can you differentiate yourself from all the other violinists? It is so important not to play the same as everyone else. How does my sound develop over time? When I go back and listen to myself now, and then listen to myself in 2 weeks, what is that difference going to be? Is there a difference? Do I like this difference, or do I not like this difference? And what did I change? Did I do this intentionally? Not intentionally? Finally, there is musical listening, which is one of the hardest to do and one of the most fun to do as a musician. Which sounds sound best to me for this passage? What do I like? What do I not like? What do I want to say with this passage? Sometimes that can be an emotional answer. Sometimes that can be like a very literal sentenced answer. Or it can be something more nuanced than that. How can I create the sound that I want for this piece? what can I do to make this what I want it to be? These types of listening are great in concept, but let's try to incorporate some of them into some exercises. The first exercise I will call case study. So take a very, very small unit of what you would like to practice. For right now, let's say I'm not happy with how I play up bow stroke on the G string, the very first note of my current piece that I'm learning. So now I write down a piece of paper, and I have paper here, and I say, it sounded hearty, if a little bland. It is a part of a triplet, so I'm actually going to continue with the triplet. That was less hearty, and I'm not sure where it led. So let me try that again. I'm going to write down, what did I do differently? This time, I didn't start with as much contact on the bow. So I'm going to try that again. And this time, what can I do differently? I'm just kind of mess around with it and see what I like, what I don't like, and not even just what I like and don't like, but just different observations. But that one was a little bit more scratchy. What did I do? I pushed down a little bit more. You would write this down. And preferably you would have a recording along with it so you can go back and listen and see what your direct feedback was. The next exercise is, of course, using a drone. So let's say you are working on an A major scale. I really hope this picks up on the camera, okay? Of course, this is very annoying. So only use a drone for a short period of time before taking a break. So I'm internalizing this note. And first of all, I'm just going to do note matching. I'm just going to try to make sure that I hit A's consistently with 440. That one's not right there. You can see how that can get very nitpicky very quickly. The next thing you can do is, of course, practice your scales or practice a tonal excerpt with a drone. But it is very important to really listen to the waves in between the intervals, to listen to how the intervals interact with each other. And if you don't like an interval, then you should experiment with it. So I'm deciding that I tend to want to hear my first interval of my Guamian turn in my scales a little bit flat. Finally, there is the immediate playback method. Take out your recording device for that. For me, that is my phone. And play a treble passage, if you will. So I'm going to record this. That is my treble passage. Before I listen to that recording, I want to write down what I liked and what I didn't like about what I just played. So I have made this recording, and we're going to listen to this. So I've learned that I selectively vibrate when I am playing chords. So now I know, I'm going to draw a line, that vibration. So this exercise allows you to compare what you think of a piece while you're playing it versus what you think of a piece after you've heard it. And this allows you to better make judgments while you are performing to adjust. Finally, there are some other ways you can listen in order to get better. There is sheer exposure, by listening more, by listening to other people. Go to concerts, listen to recordings on YouTube, and ask people to play for you and to give you live feedback of how they feel about what they're playing. That is all I have to say about listening. Thank you very much for tuning in, but I'm gonna have to head out. Thank you.